Hi, I'm Rabbi Austin Zoot, and welcome back to the channel. Over the past several weeks, we've been having this conversation about what role do synagogues and congregations play in the future of Judaism. Now, organized institutional Judaism has for about 100 years, at least in North America, been centered around this congregational model that has been working fairly well. But the 21st century has brought with a few of the challenges that force us to evaluate, is this still the best way to engage? Now, over the last 2 weeks, I've let you know that my theory is yes, congregational life is still a piece of the right answer. But there's also a lot of evidence that other kinds of organizations and systems and structures are fairly effective at trying to engage in different ways. For example, there are all kinds of communities across North America that are working hard to try and engage. What does it look like if we form specific cohorts of Jewish people coming together with a shared purpose? Cincinnati just announced a LARPing, live-action role-playing group specifically targeted to help like-minded Jews come together and do something that might not actually have anything to do with Judaism, but that allows us to do it in a Jewish way. That's pretty cool. And I think it's pretty valuable because it allows our Jewish identities to come in and become holistic. I'm not just Jewish in one area and just interested in sports or culture or movies or anything else in another corner. Those are all part of my identity. And if I can meet people who have intersectional points where we could say we're both Jewish fans, let's get together and make that a meaningful experience, that's awesome. It's actually kind of ideal. But the question then becomes, is that a stand-in for all other organized Judaism, or is that a gap filler? Is that a bridge that helps connect us to, this is one element of Jewish engagement, but in order to participate in a more holistic sense of Jewish identity, not just a holistic sense of personal identity, but to tie in that Jewish element, how do we find something that bonds all of these different places together? And this is where we come to the idea that congregations allow us to continue to do the work of figuring out what is that concierge service that gets to know us, that gets to know you as an individual and says, who are you, what are you about, what do you care about, and how do we best engage you in the Jewish world? While these organizations that might offer niche opportunities are beautiful and help key us into the larger whole, the role that congregations and synagogues can play in that larger sphere is to say, we know you. We have built strong relationships, we've cultivated that connection, and we're able to say, this is how we identify you and say, I know what you like, I know what you care about, and I'm going to find you ways to engage not only in the day-to-day operations of our community, but also those sub-pockets of our larger Jewish world that might stimulate your engagement most effectively. Now, I'm going to identify right off the top. I am working and living and building community in a city that has a very specific kind of Jewish model. Speaking specifically for Reform Judaism, there are 4 Reform congregations that are fairly geographically close together in Cincinnati. So the reason to belong to one and not the other is not because of how easy it is to get there. You are not a member of one congregation because it's closer or because it matches ideologically. We all have similar ideological bends. But the reason to engage in communities in these different places are because of communal relationship with a rabbi or cultural fit because of the style of that particular congregation. And each of those little pieces make it so that you're joining a community that most feels like the kind of family you want to be with. The most ideological fit. Not only about, are we Reformed Jews, do we care about the same expression of Judaism, but what's the kind of music you want on a Friday night? And what are the kind of Torah study options and educational components? And what are some of the, around the outside, values and ideas that are important to that community? I have found my cultural home here at the Valley Temple. And one of the things that makes Cincinnati such a beautiful space is that a brand new person walking in our doors, we can pretty much identify fairly quickly, are you perfect fit here? Are you a Valley Temple member waiting to happen? Or are there things about you that actually make more sense at one of the other congregations down the road? That's not giving congregants away. It's helping every Jew find the right fit. And congregations are uniquely situated to help make that situation so ideal. We get to know our people, we get to see their needs and rise to that occasion, and we get to make sure that the match works in such a way that really strengthens all of our opportunity to engage in Judaism in the most meaningful, accessible, and personalized way, while also fitting into a larger community. We are standing on the precipice of a moment where we have been calling for Jewish creativity and excellence for generations, and most specifically for decades. We have been asking the question, how do we engage in this work most effectively? And what I'm finding so beautiful and so meaningful as I walk through this with you is that we're close. We have so many of the pieces to be able to do this work holistically and beautifully. All we have to do is figure out how to move everything around in just the right way, how to get people supported in just the right way, and to make sure that we all come together and can find a way to make Judaism special, meaningful, and intentional for any person who might want to gain access. That is how congregations can best serve their needs, and that's how we as a Jewish world can best use our tools to give that meaning to anyone who wants it. We'll continue this conversation next week, and in the meantime, if there's someone who you want to share this with, let's keep the conversation going. Like, comment, subscribe, make sure you're part of our ongoing discussion about how do we make Judaism as beautiful and vibrant as it can possibly be. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.